The news of the day, the news for the Browns of the year. Joe Burrow is back in practice. If you remember, he suffered a calf injury last month. Now, many people were fearing it may have been an Achilles. Thankfully, it was not. He's back on the practice field, but he's still waiting to secure a potentially record-breaking NFL extension from the Bengals. Week 1 is finally approaching, and James Jones, it is quickly approaching. But should Joe Burrow actually play if he doesn't have that long-term deal signed?
Absolutely. And the reason why I say it, if it was any other player than Joe B, I would say no. But he came in as a first-round pick and took this organization from the bottom to the top. So even if he steps on this field and, let's knock on wood, like Chady say, has a Dak Prescott or something, right? He's still going to be the highest paid quarterback in football. He's done that much. He's shown that much. And even just from the Bengals standpoint, right? We know that this deal should have been done. However you got to make money, you got to make money. But at the end of the day, since the offseason started, all we've been hearing out that camp is the time is now. It's our time to go, right? And you heard the coaches, you heard the players, like they all in for this thing, you know. And Joe Burrow knows that, and Joe Burrow knows he's going to get paid. So for me, it doesn't matter if he gets injured; he's still going to be the highest paid quarterback in football. And they are trying to win; they are trying to get back to that Super Bowl. So I don't have no problem with it.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Joe. Stay away from the light. Come back. Don't do it. Personally, I wouldn't do it.
No.
No, I don't like handshake deals. That's not for me. It needs to be on the paper, just right there. So just you go ahead and sign right there. And then the lawyer, the witness sign right there, and then now we're good. Now I can do whatever I want.
So we know if Acho and Fox don't, you holding out. We know.
And then I'm right there, and then the sign right there, and then the email went through, so I got the copy in the email,
we good.
and then we're good. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like, we can say, okay, if he has a Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott was coming back. There's injuries that we don't speak of, I won't mention their names, that played a quarterback position that ended their careers. We know it. We don't have to go over who happened. It happened, very famous moments, you know. Same organization, then it happened again.
Yeah.
No, there are things that can happen on the football field that will end your career. He has not been paid yet. Of course he's going to get paid. But my question would be, why hasn't he been paid yet?
That's a Bucky Brooks question. But
Bucky?
Well, he hasn't been paid because you want to be the last one at the table. Because,
No.
Here's what we know.
He is the last one at the
For
table.
quarterbacks, the price tag never goes down.
It
only
does,
goes
as long
up.
as you can play.
Well, he can play. He's going to be playing. We can't be out here worrying about fear. We can't be worried about fear.
At this point, I'm operating from a place of fear. Now, he is going to play. If he's healthy, he's going to play because that's the type of player that he is. My advice, my opinion is, until I have the signatures and you can do an e-sign, whatever, do it in Doc Hub, however you need to do it, sign it, give me the money, let me see it hit the account, and then we can worry about that. This is a violent sport. Things can happen that can take all that money off the table. We don't want to speak of it. We don't want to imagine it. But it all sounds good and fine until it actually happens. There's a reason why guys hold out. I'm not saying he's going to do it. He probably won't. And it'll all work out great. But we can't predict the future.
I mean, look, it's easy. If I'm Joe Burrow, I'm not worried about it. I was the number 1 overall pick. And we know anytime the number 1 overall pick plays well, they get big paid. And so Justin Herbert just got paid. So he already knows this is going to be massive whenever they come to get me. So I don't need to worry about that. The Bengals got to get their coins right because the piggy bank, I don't know how big the piggy bank is in Cincinnati. Well, they got to get a bigger piggy bank for what it's going to do because they got to put that money in escrow and have it. So they out there selling programs and trying to get new signing deals and all that. They have to pay Joe Burrow significant money. He knows that. I think he's working with them. But more importantly, his teammates know that he has to be there. He doesn't want to let his
Bucky, break something down for me because there was a conversation had last year that really illuminated my mind. I think it would benefit the viewer at home. When you say they got to have the money in escrow, an ownership team, a group, they can't pay a player guaranteed money if the money is not actually there, if the owner does not actually have the money. Can you educate me and the viewer for a moment?
So what happens is when you see the guaranteed money or the signing bonus, you have to have that in an account. It's just like buying a house. When you put the money in escrow, it has to sit up in there. So you make these big promises about, oh, we're going to pay you $160 million. Yeah, cool. We're going to put that in the bank to make sure that he gets all of his money. And so the thing is, you see the different levels of ownerships in terms of their wealth. So when everyone was mad at Jimmy Haslam because he paid Deshaun Watson that guaranteed money, because he could write the check and be like, oh, that's cool. Put all that away. I don't need that. All teams don't have that.
All billionaires aren't made the same.
They're not made the same. So for the Cincinnati Bengals, the team is the family business. So everything that they generate, their wealth is off the team. And so it's different and harder and more complex for them to pay Joe Burrow.
Well said, well put. It's interesting. I do think Joe Burrow should step back onto the field. Now, I agree with Joy. We've seen guys hold out. But the operative thing is quarterbacks are different in my mind than any other position. Nick Bosa, hey, do your thing. Get your bread. Hold out for the 49ers. Chris Jones, you won a couple Super Bowls with the Chiefs. Do your thing. Get your bread. But what's so unique about quarterbacks is from peewee to middle school, even lunchtime quarterback, which so many of y'all even watching this show have been, you have to be selfless. As a quarterback, you have been trained selfless. Team before me. When you win, oh, it was everybody else's fault. Oh, shout out, Bucky did a great job. Joy did a great job. James did a great job. But when you lose, it was my fault. It was all on me. So Joe Burrow, I don't believe, has the luxury of being selfish in this moment because there are certain things that money cannot buy. And chances at a Super Bowl is that thing. Joe Burrow, you can go buy a ring online, but it's not the same. Yeah. The Cincinnati Bengals started slow last year, lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, then I believe they lost to the Dallas Cowboys Cooper Rush led. That is why they didn't have home field. I believe home field probably would have played a difference when they had to go to Arrowhead, ultimately losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, who they had beaten the year before en route to the Super Bowl. So I don't know that Joe Burrow has the luxury of sitting out.
But for me, and that's a really good point, for me, the D tackles, if Chris Jones shows up to training camp and plays in a game without a contract and tears his ACL, he's not getting paid.
That's a good point.
If Bosa comes in and tears an ACL, he's not getting paid. It's going to be, hey, maybe a franchise tag or something like, but the long-term deal is not coming. What Joe Burrow has done since he's came into the National Football League, if he has that, if he tears another ACL or whatever, he's still getting the bag.
What if he doesn't tear an ACL? What if he Alex Smiths it?
Then that's the price you take.
But
What do you mean it's the price you pay? What are y'all talking about? What do you mean it's the price you pay? If he has an Alex Smith injury, he's not getting paid the same as if he tears his ACL.
Of course.
If he tears his Achilles.
I think, but Bucky
I'm talking about risk reward here. This is a violent sport. Yeah. Alex Smith is not the first player that we've seen have that injury.
No doubt.
Who did it first? Lawrence Taylor, Joe Theismann. This is a possibility. I'm not like throwing out some conspiracy theories here.
I guess, but
how easy does that happen?
It's kind of like Bucky's point is like, Joe Burrow can't step on the field. No athlete at any point in time can step on the field thinking that could happen. And you bring up a phenomenal point of risk reward. If you think about Theismann or Alex Smith or even our linebacker Shazier for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, call it 10, call it 20 players. Yeah. There are thousands of them. So when you think about the risk reward, I think Joe Burrow's probably calculating what are the chances, because Joe Burrow has had a very bad injury. MCL, LCL, his rookie year, came back the next year, went to the Super Bowl. So while that is a possibility, I think when you calculate as Joe Burrow or even the Bengals ownership, it's like, he can't think of that.
No, he can't think of that.
His people.
After he's been paid, once the check has hit, we don't worry about those things. We're out here.
But for me, too, what we got to understand is this was the first overall pick. So it's not like he got Brock Purdy signing.
We're talking about the difference between getting almost $300 million.
No question. I know
and
that.
Never getting another NFL contract.
But what I'm saying is Joe Burrow's not worried about money. So it's kind of easier to go do something if you're not worried about the bread. If you already got $50, $100 million in the bank, whatever you got from being a first rounder, endorsements and all that, like, yes, you're going to get that, but I can take the field, and if I do get hurt, I still got $50 million.
I'm not talking about just getting hurt, though.
And I understand what Joy's saying, because there's a risk. So that's not one for him. So what you would like to think is happening, we all have representatives.
100%.
Someone got on the phone and said, look, so if my guy, I don't know, he may come, but if he comes and it goes awry, he at least got to get with Justin Herbert back.
Of course.
If not, I don't know if he's going to show up on Sunday.
That's still a handshake deal.
The real dilemma, though, is Joe Burrow just can't afford to miss time. The Bengals can't afford for him to miss time.
Joe Burrow can't afford to miss time. He can't afford to miss the time that he would miss if there's a catastrophic injury and he doesn't get paid.
But see, I would say, like, not that it's hyperbole, but I would say that, like, when you think about an Alex Smith or a Theismann or something, I really think about Dak Prescott's injury was high-key as bad as you usually see. Right, Alex Smith happened maybe 8 years ago. Somebody would have to correct me off camera. But Dak Prescott, I think the bone broke the skin.
Oh, it was bad.
Like, not only did he break his leg, my brother's broken his leg. The bone broke the skin.
And the
Cowboys still said, okay, 160.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson, who is known notably for being the greatest runner at the quarterback position ever, had a PCL injury so bad that he missed the final 6 weeks of the season. They went to the playoffs, and he still couldn't play. And they still said, you know what? We will make you the highest paid at the position.
And none of that had anything to do with the money, I'm sure. Him not coming back.
He said no.
That's what we.
He said no. Yeah, Lamar said that.
And I
Lamar
agree.
said so. I have to.
If he says it, then I believe it.
Yeah.
All I'm saying
Was that a wink?
I'm saying to me, they couldn't see his camera was too far away. All I'm saying is, in my opinion, I personally would not do this. I would not step on the field and risk my financial future. He's made a lot of money. We're talking about generational wealth here.
We're going to let the team go down?
Well,
That's the thing.
okay,
That's
yes.
the dilemma.
We're not going to let the team go down. The person who's letting the team down is the Bengals ownership because they knew they had to pay him. They knew they had to pay him when they drafted him.
Correct.
So I don't have any pity for organizations who are crying poor once it's time to pay your franchise quarterback.
But you couldn't have paid him because, like to your point and Bucky's point, the clock didn't really start until Herbert got paid. Because if you're Burrow, you can't even start until you know.
The clock started the moment that he looked like we thought he was going to look coming out of LSU.
What I mean is, you have to wait for Herbert to set the mark.
You want to be the next man.
So once Herbert sets the mark, now you're like, okay, Herbert did
so now
188.
Now we need to come up with an extra $30 million. But you still should have had that other 250 or 260 ready to go. Sell some property and get it done.
It's
I
ready
don't
to go.
have any patience.
It's ready to go.
I don't have any patience for this stuff. You knew you had to pay him.
I don't know if it's week 2, week 3, week 4, but it's ready to go. It's all going to hit his bank account. He's going to be just fine.
What property are you selling for $260 million?
Whatever I got to do to get that man there. Sell that.
I'm like, we live in Beverly Hills, but I got to find that.
I don't own a team. But somebody's got to come up off some lakeshore house, something.
I will gladly buy it from you.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.